All right, guys, I'm just driving through a bit of a tidal zone here. We have some wind, we got a few waves. I'm deliberately putting the waves on my beam. 13-ton light ship, 2,000 litres of diesel capacity, half tank on board today, 700 litres of water. We're running the D6 Volvo, 480 horsepower on a straight shaft. And this is just comfortable, but it's got some modern vibes from the interior, but from an operational perspective, great big windows, considering we're a displacement boat and maybe we can wind it up a little bit from here. Oh, I can feel that tide. And yeah, this is what it's all about. It's so funny when you adjust your mindset from fast boats to displacement boats, that the time it actually takes to get from destination A to B, whilst it's a little bit more, you're kind of enjoying the journey and you're communicating with people. So let's go through some speeds and some fuel flows. I am fighting tide right now. I'm fighting, you might be able to see through camera 2, maybe not, considerable tide at the moment. So I'm gonna, when I get into the channel, I'm going to wind it up to wide open throttle, and then I'm gonna do both directions with the tide because it is considerable at the moment. But just right now, I've actually got a GPS speed of 5 knots, but that's not correct because there's probably 2 knots of tide here at the moment. So I'll start hitting the fuel flows when I've got a straight line. And at the moment, I'll just talk to you about the sensation. Big fan of this side door here. We've already anchored the boat once today. I was stowing the fenders, we were rolling up the covers back aft. It's not a vessel that the Mother Nature overtakes. So moving forward, we had exposure to incoming swell and powerboat wash around us. I didn't even, you're not gonna fall off your feet. You feel confident and comfortable. Big, good down low weight distribution is noticeable when walking around these side decks. You know, accessing out the side here, like someone of my stature, no problems. Really, really good. From my visibility, from the seated position, I can see all the way around. If I need to look over my shoulder, I've got blind spots there and there. However, if I was backing down, once again, I can see everything by hanging my head out to the side. So it's really only that little spot there. So if you had a partner with you and you were concerned, you could just sit them out there to look, or duck your head and you'll see. So not a drama. From a comfort perspective, you know, this is a boat you'll drive on the autopilot or like this with your feet and enjoy the journey. Do speeds in that 7 to 8 knot zone, which we'll do now. I'm just gonna have to wind it up and pay attention to the differences we experience going into the tide in both speed, revs, and fuel flow, as opposed to with the tide. So I can definitely feel that I'm fighting a considerable tide movement at the moment, but let's get started. So 2,000 RPM. I'm seeing 6 knots SOG, jet ski cutting across my bow. Why do they do that? Bro. Ah, man, please, guys, if you are on a jet ski and you want to pass another vessel, don't go straight across their bow, because there's no guarantee that I can stop in time if you drop a passenger in the water. I just don't want to hurt anyone. I can, you know, I've got maneuverability, it's okay, but it's just not a wise maneuver. Anyway, back to the test. 2,000 RPM, 6 knots SOG, 14 litres per hour. We are definitely fighting tide. We'll increase that power. 2,100 to 2,200 RPM. G'day girls, nice dog. 2,200 RPM, I'm seeing 6.4, 6.5 knot SOG. Ripping through the tide there. I can see that, I can feel the water movement at the moment. 6.5 knots, SOG 2,200. Okay, above 2,200, now we're hitting 2,300, 7 knots, SOG, 20 litres per hour. 20 litres per hour at 7 knots. you're going to get shocked at the fuel flow when compared to some of the other boats you see on this channel. Sailors will be used to it. Let's get to 2,400. 2,400, it's gone to 2,450, so let's let it settle. Speeds just climbed ever so moderately to 7.3 knots against the tide. We're seeing 27 litres per hour. 27 litres per hour. Okay, let's keep going. 2,005, 2,550 seems to be where she settles. I see 7.5 knots now. 28 litres per hour, 29 litres per hour. That's settled. Let's go again. 2,650, 2,650 RPM and 7.7 knots SOG, 32 litres per hour. This wheel is comfortable for manoeuvring a boat like this. It's very yacht-like. No noticeable raise of the bow. Visibility is perfect. Visibility out back's just fine. 2,800 RPM, 7.8 knots SOG, 37 litres per hour. Let's go 3,000. Okay, here's 3,000. Moderate raise of the bow. Noticeable increase in engine noise, akin with what you'd expect of a shaft drive. Still manageable. 8.3 knots SOG, 49 litres per hour at 3,000 RPM. 3,100 RPM, 3,150 RPM. I'm seeing 8.6 knots, 57 litres per hour. More power, 3,350 now. Now we can see a raise of the bow, 9.3 knots, 70 litres per hour. Noticeable jump in consumption. And let's go wide open throttle. Okay, all the way up to 3,600, 3,700 RPM against the tide. It's really ripping at the moment. And I'm seeing 10.5 knots. Bow raise is such that it's noticeable, but I can still see over the bow. So it hasn't, from a standing position, I'm okay. 3,700 RPM and 93 litres consumption at 10 knots. Big difference. So let's just back that speed all the way down. Massive difference, because if we go from there back to 8 knots, 2,900 RPM now, lowering of the bow, everything's settled, noise levels have dropped to a more sustainable level. Currently seeing 43 litres. Let's just go to 7 knots. There we go. Real noticeable drop in engine noise into the tide here. I might need to buy myself a little bit more runway because I'm going to be going with it. 2,250 RPM, I see 7.3 knots, 28 litres. And now she's getting into a happy cruising range. 7 knots into the tide at 2,300 RPM, 20 litres. Now start doing the numbers, considering we've got 2,000 litre tank. We're using 20 litres per hour to cover 7 nautical miles. So now we're seeing some range now. And you drop that down to 2,200 RPM. Let's just do that now. And now my fuel flow is at 18 to 17 litres, but I'm still seeing 6.8 knots into the tide. Okay, clear all around. Slowing down, I'll just slow down a little bit more. Big Maritimo coming up my ass, so I'm just gonna watch him. 1,800 RPM. I'm still seeing, at 1,800, I'm still seeing 6 knots and a 10 litre fuel consumption. That's great, that's sailing yacht stuff. Very comfortable, really noticeable on the noise levels. I'm good to go for the turn now. Hard down, check my swing room, good. Okay, turning circle's fine, turning circle's good. We're gonna go through some considerable waves in a second from a Flybridge 50 odd footer. We'll go straight into it before we accelerate. Rudder angle indicator on the autopilot, but I've also got available to me on the screen. And oh, I feel that tide. I'm going to hold my course here. So, oh, he's decelerating. All right. Okay, so we're not going to get too many crazy waves. All right, tide's with us this time, guys. So now 1,200 RPM. 1,200 RPM. I see 3.8 litres consumption at a 6.6 knot SOG. Just going to go into these swells. My rudder should be having a little bit less effect now that we're going with the tide, so you might see me doing a little bit more rudder movement into the waves now. There's a deflector on the bow, which I noticed before when we were testing this. It sends all the wash out. We haven't actually achieved, even with some of this tidal flow out at the exit, we haven't achieved any water up and over the bow yet. We'll keep trying though, we'll keep trying, but it seems to be effective. Okay, at a 6 knots down tide, 1,200 RPM, we've got a 4 litre consistent consumption. Let's increase that. So this is what I was saying at the beginning of the video. Pay attention to the difference it makes on the fuel flow and the speeds with the tide, because we're just not working as hard, because now we are at a 7 litre consumption, down tide, 7.7 knot SOG, 1,520 RPM. Let's just bump that up a little bit more. Let's go to 1,700 RPM. 9.2 litres consumption at an 8.3 knots. Let's just give it some. Let's go all the way up, because I see an opportunity, and I'm going to back it off again. You're really only ever going to do this if you just want to get home. Now I'm seeing 13 knots SOG quite quickly. 13 knots SOG. We're still at that 93 litre total consumption. I've got a guy playing funny buggers off my bow, so I'm going to have to slow down because if he loses it, I got nowhere to go. You'll see him coming through on camera 2 right now. Looks like a lot of fun. He's jumping my waves. That's cool. Okay, 2,700 RPM, 11 knots, down tide, 37 litres. So depending on the conditions, you really are. Hello kids. Oh, I can't hear you. She's saying something, but I think she just wants to say hello. So, if you're hovering, depending on the tidal conditions or where you are in the world, anywhere around that 6 to 8 knot speed, you're going to be maintaining quite a happy level attitude and consuming somewhere in the region from 10 litres to 20 litres per hour, which is, if we throw in a big healthy reserve, just rough numbers, that's easily a 1,500 nautical mile range and some, depending on your speed and blah blah blah, and I'll always build in a healthy reserve. That's awesome. That's awesome. That means you could, if you're using this as a day boat or a weekender or a 3-day liveaboard and then you go back to the rest of your life and you come back and do this each week, you could just fuel up at the beginning of summer and then fuel up again next season. so if you are conscious, as I know many of you are and will be about to be even more, about fuel and running costs, and those of you who are running your boats on a fixed income because you are now a self-funded retiree, that's going to make a huge difference when you also factor in single engine shaft drive maintenance and then this fuel flow to your making your life predictable, having predictable running costs and backing that speed off ever so slightly. Not going in the ocean today because I just don't think we're really, to talking to that community. Yes, you can run this thing up and down the coast. We do have breaking waves across the bar, so that's a set of conditions where I would choose to take the nicer day. I'm not saying the boat won't handle it, it will, but if you have a partner and if you are here to enjoy your boat life and not beat yourself up, then why beat yourself up? And also, a style of boat like this is for a mindset of boater that is happy to invest the time. If you're rushing everywhere, if you're always too busy in life, then go and buy a fast boat. This is probably not for you. This is a style of boat to people who are dedicated into the boat life, and you enjoy this. You want to see everything. You want to communicate. You don't want to be so pressed on your situational awareness that you have to be focusing all the time when driving. This is a much more relaxed style of operation, which allows you to relax. So it's kind of obvious, isn't it, Dan? But in an area like this where I've often got to watch out for surfers who paddle across and they're all wearing black wetsuits, that's kind of dangerous. I can keep a good, there's one right now. There you go. So I can keep a good eye out for people, I can keep a good eye out for traffic, I can communicate with a partner that was here, I can manage all those tasks. And girls, if you're watching, us blokes are not designed for multitasking, so the less distractions you can give us on a vessel, the more relaxing your boat life is going to be. That's if the guy's driving. Obviously we would welcome you to drive as well, but the less tasks you can saturate your mind with, the more headspace you will leave available for communication and fun. And that's noticeable right now on this design. I'm just not in any way reaching peak workload, and you would notice if I am, because I'll stop talking. So if you see me stop talking, that's because my brain has gotten to a concentration level where I now can't think to talk to you, and I'm trying to focus on what's going on around me, which is just not the case right now. Awesome. We're going to go and deploy the anchor. Alright guys, so I'm going to bring the boat up alongside. Couple observations. So we're just coming in now. I'll back my speed back to 4 knots now that I'm entering the marina. She tracks pretty straight. We have a keel underneath the boat. We do need to get an understanding of which way the prop warp is going to pull us when we're in reverse. So that's something, if you're not used to a shaft drive, particularly a single shaft drive boat, when you kick it into reverse, the propeller is going to want to pull you one way or the other, and that can be to your advantage. So if you're pulling up alongside a dock and the prop warp wants to pull you starboard, then reverse thrust will actually pull you into the dock. So I'm coming up alongside on the starboard side because I've got the fuel dock here. It's fended with lines, and I have a blow-on situation at the moment. So the wind is blowing from the south, from my left to the right. So it's going to be blowing us on. So I didn't need to prepare any lines or fenders because we have a fended dock and lines on the dock and a blow-on situation. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to back off the power, come in here. I'm going to drift with some distance away from the dock, and camera 2 in a second will start to give you a better perspective on that. And then I'm going to slow the boat down and do the final approach using thrusters. So now I'm going to adjust my course, and that's just factoring in for any wind. Okay. And you want to keep the boat moving so the rudder is working on a boat like this. But now I'm going from in gear to out of gear, and now I can start to drive in towards the dock there. I've got my thrusters on and I tested them before. And here's where the prop warp's going to be interesting. So let's center that rudder and we'll thrust it in reverse. I think it pulls to port, but that's okay. That's why I have a bow and stern thruster. Let me just try that again. I think it pulls to port on this one. I'm gonna just put us up alongside the fenders. So you can see my head is not going back to the controls, and I've got my, yeah, I think that definitely pulls to port. I'm not moving my head from the controls back to where I want to go, because I find in final approach, when you're actually just, when seconds matter, it's good to have a clear line of sight to where you need. Now, Pete, you can actually step off and get a stern line on, but actually, for the purpose of the exercise, I'll do it myself, because things are slow and steady on this boat, and it's really not that complicated. I'll use this line because that one's all nice and tidy. And I'll just get, there you go, we'll just drift forward a little bit. Go forward on that. Okay, and then I'll set up a midships line. This guy's been quite diligent with his dock line, so I'll just take the ones that are already messy and use that as a spring as well. Happy days. So slow and steady wins the race with this boat, but if you just have a good eagle eye out the door on final approach, and then pay attention to what you're doing, you can just have your right hand on the throttle, your left hand on the bow and stern thrusters, center the rudder, and the boat's going to be quite maneuverable. It does feel like the prop warp in reverse pulls to port, so just pay attention to that, and that will, you can use that to your advantage when you know what it is doing. Every shaft drive boat is going to be different. So you can either pull yourself away from the dock or pull yourself into the dock when you're giving it a blast in reverse. But remember, those thrusters are going to do the same thing. So we can just maneuver ourselves away from the dock using the thrust power. So all good. I hope that was useful, ladies and gents. I'm going to stand on the dock so you can get a bit of a appreciation of her lines from here. It's all good fun. It's relaxed fun. It's a boat that allows you to relax, in my personal opinion. So what would she like to drive? How much experience and crew are you going to need to operate something like this? And what could you compare her with out there on the market if you are in the market? So she's a no-nonsense, predictable boat to drive. She tracks in straight lines and she goes at displacement speed. So if that's what you are considering, this is definitely a boat that will do that. She's pretty solid. She's not going to get overtaken by the wind too quickly. If anything, depending on where you are, the tide might catch you before the wind, because we do have a bit of a keel below the waterline. So just factor that in. The walk around decks and the design of these safety rails and moving back aft are super, super safe. So the amount of rock that we felt, the inherent form stability on this boat, it just, let me just see if I can, you put your weight on it, it doesn't want to move. So not all boats are like that. Some boats that might look like this but are trying to take advantage of hybrid propulsion, for example, they're going to rock around even when you step on the side. So what that means is the environment will take over at a much faster rate. So your ability to control the boat, it just changes. You have to be more onto it. You have to be thinking 3 or 4 or 5 steps ahead, as opposed to maybe 1 or 2 on something like this. So this is a much more relaxed style of boating. And if we go back to the inherent running costs, from fuel to shaft drive, diesels, load it up with solar, equip it with a generator, you do you, it's kind of no nonsense. So I think it's the people in that demographic are going to see lots of value. If in terms of experience, I'd be totally happy to run this boat by myself. If, however, I was having to reverse it into a marina with a lot of crosswind or tide, I would want another pair of hands, because things happen slower on a boat like this than they do on others. So that's the scenario where I would want either another pair of hands, or I'd want to design my dock around success. That means fenders everywhere, perhaps a reversing camera, and just give me good sight lines and a real clear understanding on what I am doing. If you're keeping it on a mooring, if you're going up alongside like we have here, many other scenarios, not an issue. Or if you don't have tide, different kettle of fish, I'd be fine running something like this by myself. What would you compare it with? I think the obvious one, it's already on the channel. It's the Integrity 460. So that's already on my channel, just search that. It's a very clear competitor to this one, same logic, same mindset. There are other boats out there, but many of them are focused on higher speeds and displacement speeds, whereas we're somewhere in the middle, and I really do think this is more of the displacement speed focus. Yes, you know, we saw 13 knots today. Maybe you might get 15 out of it, light ship. Don't hold me to that. And remember to factor in the tides, so the exact numbers might be a little bit off. But I think if you're looking in that sort of that demographic, that area of boats, it's fair to compare this one with the Integrity or anything else of this style, because there's plenty of boats on the used market that you'll see like this. But you know, if we're focusing on new, it's this one and the Integrity. Hope that was useful. Don't forget to jump on the Patreon if you want to post some questions and get some video answers, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.